Ladies and gentlemen, theys and gamers, welcome to Creme de la Creator, the podcast that celebrates remarkable content creators and their communities. My name is Grant Alexander. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. Jake Lane. Jake, how you doing today?
Next question.
Great.
It's been an up and down day. But
yeah. Today has been a bit of a long week, huh?
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I did have an interesting conversation, actually, with my sister's mate earlier. So shout out to my sister's friend, Abby. She's a fan of the pod. And yeah, I sent you some feedback that she said that she absolutely loves the theys in our intro.
Oh, that's really, really sweet.
Being a queer person herself, she was just like, this isn't the content I expected to come for, but it's the content I live for. So that was really nice of her to say.
It's what we love. It's what we love.
But she literally just messaged out of nowhere. She goes, when your podcast starts getting sponsored, please can you be sponsored by HelloFresh or something? Because I want to try it.
Oh, dude, HelloFresh is great. And I'm going to go completely, we're not sponsored, but we had a box a couple months back. Yeah, it was just after Christmas. And oh my God, yeah, absolutely loved it. I really enjoyed learning new recipes and experimenting. And, you know, we got a free box from a friend who had been a subscriber so long that they could give away a free box. And my God, it's all pre-portioned, it's all healthy, it's all really, really tasty if you follow the instructions. And yeah, I would very much like to get a HelloFresh sponsorship at some point.
Yeah, I'll echo that because similar thing a while ago. Well, Alana and one of her friends offered us a free box. It was just randomly, completely out of the blue.
Yeah, same for us.
I was like, I don't think we're quite there yet. Anyway, she was like, I was like, what would the sponsorship be anyway? She said, because you get discounts and stuff. I just want to use the discount. So, HelloFresh, if you are listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, how's your week been anyway, man?
It is, we're still in lockdown. So it's we found out that there's a leak in our conservatory roof today, which is great, which the landlord's going to have to pay for. She's not going to be our biggest fan because she already paid to replace the garage roof this year. So, you know, it's just, you feel like you don't want to complain, but at the same time, we're heating the house and there's a big old gap in the roof of the conservatory, which is leaking heat. So,
I mean, On the, I suppose, one silver lining is that it's happened this side of winter. It's March.
100%.
It's on. Yeah. The temperature's on the rise and the weather's improving.
Yeah. In the summer, that conservatory gets 30, 40 degrees C.
I can remember when we came out for dinner and it was just sort of sat in there wow, this is... You got the heat
toasty. Yeah, no, that's that heats the whole house in the summer. But yeah, other than that, week's going all right. It's just one of those weeks. But I'm glad we're here. I'm glad we are recording. I've been looking forward to this. So yeah, let's get into it.
Do you have honourable mentions for us this week?
I certainly do. And I just want to preface something that occurred to me this week. And I was just kind of scrolling through our episodes. We've come up to our 10th episode. It's a nice little milestone. Ooh. And I've kind of checked myself in terms of the type of creators that I'm bringing to the table. And I noticed that I'm not bringing a fair amount of female creators to the table. So I am pledging to rectify that. And starting this week, I'm going to be way more conscious of bringing a more diverse set of creators each week. So that is my pledge. Kicking things off, a creator that's a little close to home. She's a very good friend of ours. Her name is Millie Cosplay. She's as you guessed it, a cosplayer based in London. Wow. Huge nerd and very good friend. She is currently the back-talking bard in our current D&D campaign.
Nice.
And she's always willing to leave the party to get themselves into trouble. And curse us for doing it anyway. And yeah, she's just a really nice person, really, really talented cosplayer. I want to start bringing more cosplayers to the episodes each week because it's a community that I've been involved with for a few years and a community that I really love.
Yeah, sure.
And she is an incredible Marvel and Disney cosplayer. In fact, let me send you the link so you can see her Instagram.
Oh, awesome.
She's really, really talented. Yeah. And she does a load of stuff. If you follow her, and she takes a lot of time and care in what she builds, and she's really good for kind of tips and tricks for female cosplayers. So yeah, big shout out to Millie Cosplay.
Amazing. I was just scrolling down. I got that meme, I completely forgot about that. The whole LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Tinder.
Yeah, yeah.
I forgot about that. Awesome.
Yeah, that circled through the cosplay community quite well, as you can imagine. Jake, have you got an honourable mention for us this week?
I do. This week's honourable mention is somebody that I have been following for a little while now.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is Cara Lisette. She's a mental health and eating disorder blogger.
Oh, fantastic. Good timing.
I think I kind of stumbled across her through the hellscape that is Twitter, actually. Someone that kind of was regularly retweeted by people that I follow or someone that I followed. And you know when you kind of, are they getting retweeted a lot? I'll check their page out. So it's kind of done that. Mm-hmm. And from there, I've picked up that actually, she has a blog called Cara's Corner. And it addresses a whole host of issues. So from how to support someone with an eating disorder to coping with anxiety, and it details in kind of a no-holds-barred sort of journal through her own anorexia recovery journey.
Oh, wow, okay.
It's fantastic, and it's something on her socials are constantly sort of raising awareness and documenting her personal journey and her own personal relationship with food and things like that. She discusses her personal relationship with food, but also how people perceive food and eating. And we live in a world where if you don't look a certain way, or you don't speak a certain way, or you don't wear the certain clothes, or you don't eat certain foods, anything can be used against you because you are wrong or you are bad. Or it's very easy for people to attack you, especially on the online community, for something that you don't do or that you do that do.
You point and yell different.
Yeah, exactly. And she's really kind of covers that off in detail on her blog. But also, as I say, her socials are raising awareness. And for me personally, something that I have had no knowledge about, not in terms of, obviously I'm aware that eating disorders exist, but it's not something that I am well educated in. So it was interesting to expand my own horizons and learn about something that it doesn't affect me personally, but it does affect people. And it's important to learn about things that don't just affect yourself and
that's great.
And be aware about these things. So Cara Lisette, her name is, absolutely fantastic. Obviously all the links will be in the description. She's got a link tree, so I'll put that in the description too. So go and check out her blog if that's something that has affected you, or if it's something that you are looking to expand your horizons and learn some more about. Yeah,
that's going to tie in very nicely with the charity shout out this week. So
tremendous.
Shall we move on to some featured creators?
Let's dive in. You can go first this week. I believe I went first last week. So.
Well, you're an absolute gentleman. Thank you very much. So last week with the Dice of Destiny, I rolled a 6, which means I got to bring a wild card again. I think it's my third time around the wild card track.
Yeah.
Now, I have consistently, when rolling wild cards, I've gone for creators who perform and exist and create content over multiple channels. So this week, I decided to stick to that form, and I thought I would complete the journey that I started last time with Brian Wecht by talking about his co-host on the podcast that they share. Yeah. So this week's creator is mechanical keyboard connoisseur and horror sommelier Leighton Gray. Graylish on Twitter and Butt Champs on Instagram, obviously.
Yeah.
She is a wearer of many different hats, including a pretty dope peaches and lemon beanie from the podcast merch store, which I would buy if import taxes weren't currently horrific.
Yeah, fair.
And hats don't suit me, I'm going to be honest. I got too much hair for hats. So Leighton is a podcaster on Late Night with Brian Wecht. She's also done a mini-series called Deep Cuts on the podcast, which is the history of found footage horror films, which I'm not a fan of horror, but I am a fan of video essays and audio essays, and it was an incredibly detailed account of where the genre of found footage horror films like Blair Witch Project and kind of that ilk of horror started. And she's also an illustrator, producing a huge amount of content for Game Grumps and their touring company, Real Good Touring.
Nice.
Who do all the live shows for all the YouTubers and everything like that. They've recently been doing a lot of online live shows, raising money for charity. So
awesome.
Leighton's been both performing in them as a comedian, as an actor, as well as producing all of the materials for that. So that's been really cool. Most notably, in the last few years, she's been the writer, art director, and game developer and co-creator of Dream Daddy, a daddy dating simulator, which I'm... do you know this game?
Do you know what? I've heard of it. I've not experienced it, but...
This is all about gay dads, which is great. So you're a dad who moves into a town with your daughter and you have to romance the dad of your choice. And there are different themes and different storylines that play out, different subplots. And it's all incredibly well directed and well written. There's a lot of really cool jokes in there. So yeah, give it a go. Watch the Game Grumps playthrough, because Game Grumps actually published this game as a company. So definitely watch their playthrough of it.
I'm just watching that video clip you sent me now, and it's just like... Yeah, it's awesome.
It's really, really cool. The other writing project that Leighton did recently was for fans of the podcast. She did a series of short horror stories based on prompts that the listeners gave in.
Yeah.
And I sent in a prompt, which she wrote a story for, and I was really, really thrilled with it. So you got to submit a person of interest and a theme or setting. So I said Stephen Fry living in a War of the Worlds style post-invasion apocalypse.
Nice.
And the short story she sent back was absolutely phenomenal. And there's, I think if you're a patron of the podcast, you can go and download the full catalogue of stories. I think she did a couple dozen of them. And yeah, absolutely phenomenal. And on top of all of this, Leighton is also a Twitch streamer. So she streams horror games on twitch.tv/Graylish. Not for a few months now, because the podcast, I think, has been the main focus. Yeah. So yeah, they have the weekly podcast show, Late Night with Brian Wecht, of which I am a member of their Discord community. That's where I met Nebula and Ryan, who did our theme. Yeah. So yeah, the community of very, very talented creative people that her and Brian have brought together. So I thought it was time to mention Leighton as a featured creator. So I'm glad we managed to do that. Have you got a featured creator? Who is your featured creator for this week?
I don't have one. Goodbye, everyone.
Oh, no, that's great, because my voice is actually killing me. So if we could just stop now, that'd be fine.
We'll knock it on the head there. This week, my feature creator. Now, I messaged you earlier about this, and you were like, I heard the visible confusion in your reading of my message.
So the visible confusion came from the fact that I was halfway through a meeting, just checked my phone and was like, he's talking about the show, but I can't focus enough on the message to decipher what he was meaning. And I looked back at it afterwards and it didn't make a lick of sense. So please do explain.
So I rolled a 3, maybe, or 2.
You did?
It was a 3.
No, it was a 3, yep.
It's never higher than a 3. I had a 50-50 chance of getting it right. So I rolled a 3, and that meant this week I had to bring a podcast to the show. And
you certainly did.
I for the first time since episode 1, actually, bringing a podcast in. And the podcast that I've bought this week is a side podcast from a main podcast, which is what I was trying to explain earlier. Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Now, the main podcast that this kind of stems from is a podcast called Mostly Superheroes, hosted by Logan Janis. If you're listening, Logan, I apologize if I mispronounce your name. Please feel free to at me and correct me. As the title suggests, they literally discuss all things like mostly superheroes. So
dope.
Yeah, that's there's a lot of MCU stuff going on at the minute. So they talk about the films different. At the moment, there's a lot of each kind of episode of WandaVision gets a section and stuff like that.
Noise.
A lot of MCU stuff going down, as you can imagine, because there's a lot of MCU stuff going down.
But weirdly, also the quietest it's ever been. This is the longest gap in films being released because of COVID.
Yeah, because of COVID.
But there's still so much going on.
They've been pumping out TV shows, haven't they? And they've
top quality TV shows.
Queuing it up, haven't they, each week? So yeah, I mean, I think there's 9 episodes of WandaVision, isn't there?
Yes, so we are recording the day before the finale comes out, and I am so not ready for this show to end. Me neither. But then I think Falcon and Winter Soldier starts immediately after the next week.
It does. They were talking about that on one of their episodes. So Mostly Superheroes is the main podcast. There is a side podcast called Mostly Superheroes, The Music Show. This is a radio style show where it's so in the main podcast it's Logan and a couple of other hosts as well, but the music show is just Logan. It's a radio style show where he'll discuss his favourite movie and TV soundtracks before introducing them, and then the songs will play.
Sorry, just to clarify, is this the composed scores, or is it just songs that have been chosen for the films?
Both. Ultimately, is just exploring and celebrating his favourite songs and pieces of music from films and TV. And that literally could be anything. Talk about like Guardians. There's a couple of episodes dedicated to like Guardians of the Galaxy. Of course, each film gets its own episode.
Those are incredible soundtracks. Yeah.
But you're also looking at, in February, they did Decades Month. So each week they did like 80s, 90s, 2000s and 10s. Can you remember when I sent you music the other day when it was like the Pokemon theme tune and Power Rangers and stuff? And 90s for me, like, don't know if it was the nostalgia, but we as kids did not appreciate just how much that music absolutely banged. Like,
oh yeah, I can't think of a show that was released in like the late 90s, early 2000s for children's entertainment that didn't have an absolute killer opening theme.
That's the thing, like, even though sometimes the lyrics weren't amazing, but the music was just like Pokemon, Power Rangers and X-Men, the animated series, just absolutely rocked. Like, the best bit was he finished the episode on the Pokemon theme tune, and I was listening to it driving to work, and I was just like...
Did I send you... I shouted out Jonathan Young, the cover artist on YouTube, a couple episodes back.
You did, yeah.
Did I send you the link to his cover of the Pokemon theme tune with the original guy who sang the theme song? He's a YouTuber himself.
I don't think you did, actually.
Oh, right. I've got a couple links to send you after the show then, because it's absolutely banging. Sure. The other, I did want to just hijack this for a second honourable mention, talking about music in film. Patrick Willems, the video essayist, has released a couple weeks ago his longest ever episode video essay. And he calls it the complete guide to pop music needle drops in movies. And it's so extensive. It goes through every needle drop, where they're used, how they're used, why they're used, who does it best, who does it worst. And it's so in-depth. So when you were talking about a podcast that covered music in film, and that's why I wanted to clarify whether it was actual music like that exists outside of the film or whether it was pre-scored. So yeah, another kind of side honourable mention for that.
I will definitely check.
I will be sending you links.
Amazing. One of the other things as well that I think I've said this to you before recently, but it was in this and the music show. The song "Hero" by Chad Kroeger and Josie Scott from the Spider-Man soundtrack.
Spider-Man soundtrack, yeah.
First of all, that is one of the most underrated superheroes soundtrack songs.
Oh, it's great.
From one of the most underrated films, because Spider-Man 3 ruined it for everyone.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I'm really looking forward to... What is it that Sam Raimi's directing? Is it the new Doctor Strange?
Yes.
I'm sure he's directing new Doctor Strange. And I'm really excited to see him direct, because he's kind of fantastical horror kind of side, and he nailed, should we say, 2 out of 3 Spider-Man films?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, I don't think one bad film just turns him into a bad director. Far from it. It's just that film didn't... I think it... I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I'm not going to blame him for Spider-Man 3, because when...
No, I'm going to blame Sony, because it was probably Sony's fault.
Yeah, that's the thing. When a film starts to get successful, then the studio starts to want to take more control and pull more strings and do more of this and that. And especially...
And you end up with a Justice League.
Yeah. Especially in that kind of era, because that first Spider-Man film came out in 2002. So that was still in the superhero era post Joel Schumacher Batman, which studios were still kind of like, they went from really good superhero films, Batman and Batman Returns, to let's make toys. And they had Spider-Man was kind of the first major successful superhero film after that.
The one that wasn't R-rated, because didn't Blade come out in that period as well?
Blade,
but that was an R-rated film.
Shout out to Blade, Wesley Snipes. But I forget how good Blade was actually.
It's such a good film.
But that's the thing. They see it's successful. Spider-Man's going great. It's awesome. It's got a great cast. Yeah. And then the second one comes out and it does just really well. And then they're looking at a third one and it's like, right, let's try and make more toys.
In retrospect, it's worth it for the memes, let's be honest. Like emo Peter Parker dancing down the street. Like, have you seen the version without music? Where he's just like, hey, how, yeah. It's just it's the cringiest thing you've ever seen, but it's so great.
It's awesome. On their main pod as well, on the Mostly Superheroes pod, they were talking about, they did like a Batman Returns Christmas episode special. So
Nice.
It's like awesome. I was listening to that before the show actually. As I said earlier, I was kind of back cataloguing because I was like, just kind of listening to random episodes of that. But
how many episodes have they have? How many have they got? Have they been going?
Yeah, they're into like on the main pod. They're into like season 2. So,
damn!
Yeah, there's a lot to work through there. But
yeah, well, that'll keep me busy.
Yeah. So that's my feature creator this week, kind of by proxy. The Mostly Superheroes podcast with Logan, but the specific podcast I was looking at was the music show. Go and check that out because there is some dope stuff on there.
That's cool. That's so cool. Cool. Should we move on to our charity shout out for the week?
Yes, indeed.
This week, charity shout out was my job, and I did remember. And I'm glad you kind of brought up the raising awareness of conditions and struggles that you don't personally have to deal with, but are still important to highlight. This charity represents a condition that I can't have personal experience with because it only affects women and people assigned female at birth. This week's charity shout out goes to Endometriosis UK because March is Endometriosis Awareness Month. Now, Jake, do you know what endometriosis is?
For my sins, no, I don't actually.
That's fine. That's kind of why we're here. So endometriosis is something that has affected people close to me. It's a condition where cells similar to ones that you'd find in the lining of the womb, in the uterus, they're found elsewhere in the body. So typically that is on the outside of the womb, but they've been found literally all over the body. There's cases where this tissue has been found in people's shoulders and is causing them incredible pain in their joints. Each month, these cells react in exactly the same way that those in the womb would act. They build up, break down, bleed, or what would be bleeding. Obviously, they've got nowhere to go. So it's a chronic and often debilitating condition that can cause very painful or heavy periods. It can also lead to infertility issues. Fatigue can cause problems for other surrounding organs, very common to affect the bowel and the bladder. Diagnosis of endometriosis is incredibly difficult. Typically, many people have to go through years of tests before it's even considered and diagnosed. The average diagnosis for endometriosis takes 7.5 years.
Crikey.
But it affects 1 in 10 women or female assigned at birth.
Bloody hell.
So it's not an uncommon thing,
No.
but it's just not tested for or understood properly. And part of me thinks, I can't help but think that if that was a condition that only affected men and those assigned male at birth, there would be far more intensive research and diagnosis would be far quicker.
Yeah.
There's a book called Invisible Women by Caroline Criado Perez, and it's exposing data biases in a world designed for men, and it's all about how women aren't represented in research as well as they should be. If your study is non-gendered, then there will be a male bias. And it's a really interesting read. And I think this has something to do with that.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, if this was an illness that affected not just women or people assigned female at birth, then it would be far better understood and researched, and that's not fair.
No, not at all.
So Endometriosis UK, they work really hard to improve the lives of people affected by endometriosis and work towards a future where it has the least possible impact on people living with the condition. They're trying to get diagnosis quicker.
Yeah.
They want to break the stigma down around this type of condition. They want everyone to have the right to fast and appropriate care and support for the treatment because it is a chronic illness. The only way of getting it positively diagnosed is through something like a laparoscopy, exploratory surgery, where they can remove the tissue, but it doesn't mean that it won't come back. So it's something that needs a lot of support and a lot of just understanding around it for people who suffer it and people who have their lives impacted by it. So they've got a hashtag running this month, #EndoTheStigma. They're doing a 1 in 10 fundraising challenge where you can walk or run 10K to raise money and awareness. You can bake 10 cakes. You can have a quiz night with 10 teams. stuff like that, anything that revolves around 10.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be, and I pledge this here and now, that I will walk/run 10K to raise money for this month.
Awesome.
I'll probably be doing it towards the end of this month, but I just wanted to raise awareness for these guys because they're doing some fantastic work. They are really worth paying attention to, and endometriosis is something that is really worth knowing more about because it affects a lot of people.
Wow,
Sorry, that was a lot, wasn't it?
It was a lot, but that's a fantastic thing to bring, mate. As you said, it's not just about things that can directly affect you, and perhaps it's a cynic in me, but I'm inclined to kind of lean to, what you said about if it was something that affected men in such a way that there may have been slightly more emphasis on let's get more research in, let's get more.
Yeah.
That's the cynic in me. Thank you for bringing that to the table. Are you going to have a link to obviously once you start going for donations for your...
Yes, absolutely. I will put a link to the Endometriosis UK website and their fundraising initiatives there, especially throughout this month, and we'll be posting links to raise money for them.
Amazing.
And actually, I think that's something I'd like to do every month with at least one of our charity shout-outs, maybe do something fundraisery. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, actually. Let's, we can look at what's going on in the world and really kind of jump in with them and be like, right, they've already got this campaign going. Let's help lift that within our sort of community. And
yeah, and we'll still do the charity shout-outs weekly for different charities, but I think we'll pick one every month where we raise some money for them, and hopefully we can make a bit of a difference.
Amazing.
I reckon it's about time to roll the dice of destiny. What do you think?
I think I'm waiting for this.
Don't play with your dice on the microphone. It's like crackly ASMR. It's weird.
Now, I don't have a fancy dice roller.
Yeah, well, you're just going to have to improvise, aren't you? Because I've left mine in the other room and I'm not stopping the recording so you can do an Alan Partridge skit.
Yeah, fair enough. I just have to just roll it on my desk. Hope it doesn't.
Well, hope it doesn't
fall into the depths of the wardrobe.
I was more worried about the sound quality, but yeah, losing the dice is probably a bigger concern.
Yeah.
So, for the benefit of the listeners, the Dice of Destiny is these 6-sided dice that, well, this week, it's not the one that I used to play D&D. It's just a random 6-sided dice that no one cares about because it belongs to Jake. But it decides what type of creator we bring to the table for the next episode. So if we roll a 1, it's a writer or journalist. Number 2 is an animator or cartoonist. Number 3 is a YouTube or Twitch streamer. Number 4 is a musician or music producer. I've added that little caveat in this week. Number 5 is an artist, which I've specified can be traditional, digital, or tattoo artist. And number 6, as always, is a wild card. Now, Jake, with you rolling the dice, if you get a 3, you are actually cursed.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Jake, do you accept the terms of the dice?
I hope so.
A yes or no is required contractually.
I do. I accept these terms.
Right.
So.
Excellent.
Cool.
Stop horsing around.
Who's the first roll? First roll's for me, isn't it?
First roll is for you.
God, this is going to end badly. Oh, it went well. I got a 4.
Hey.
I think I've had a 4 before.
You have. Yeah. You have. At least it isn't a 3. So you have a musician or music producer. So that should be good fun.
Yeah, tremendous. And
cool.
For yourself?
For myself.
You also have a 4.
I mean, rules of engagement for the podcast suggest that we have to do a special now for musicians. I've got an idea.
I think I'm thinking what you're thinking, actually.
Okay. Let's have a chat about this offline and leave that as a teaser for the good people at home.
Yeah. That's
cool. I'm excited.
Awesome.
That should be good fun.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Jake. This has been enlightening as always and really good fun.
I've enjoyed it, and I think I don't know how you feel, but after a mixed week, I've kind of needed this bit of escapism to just...
That's exactly the sentiment I was going to say. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And we will see everybody next week. Stay safe, everyone. We'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Creme de la Creator is produced by Grant Alexander and Jake Lane. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter and TikTok at CDLC Podcast, or email us at cdlcpodcast@gmail.com with your suggestions for creators you think we should feature in future episodes.
Stay safe and look after yourselves during lockdown. If you need to talk to someone, please reach out using one of the links provided in the episode description. See you next week.